What is up, Genshin community? It is finally happening. We are here again. We are at part 2, which is actually really part 1 because the story is really weird. And the first part actually counts as like an epilogue. So this is really act 1 or part 1 or whatever. But for the sake of these YouTube videos, this is part 2. The wall is back. There has been minor additions of irrelevant characters. Listen, babes, I honestly wasn't going to make this unless I hit 50k, and we hit 50k, and I was really bummed. I was like, damn, I actually got to go through with this series. I actually got to go through with it because these are a lot of work to edit. Like, it's so much information. Here, wait. Let me get my producer. Let me pull up. This is my script. There are multiple pages. This is an essay. Like, I could submit this somewhere. I mean, it is bullet pointed, but still. Thank you, producer. Like, it's actually, this has become so much work that I've had to hire help. And by hire, I mean I'm paying my sister in hugs and kisses. Regardless, if this is the first video that you're watching, then you probably should go back to the other one, watch that one through, and then come back to this one because, you know, you want to watch it in order or you're going to be lost. Friendly reminder that if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss part 3, because there's definitely going to be a part 3, and this will be the Liyue chapter of this story. Now, I know we didn't hit 2 million on the first one, but I think there's still time if we continue to share part 1 and part 2, you know, because this is honestly becoming a big deal, and Mike just posted a Glee video and that hit 1 million. So like, vibes, what's going on? Why aren't we at 1 million? What's going on? You guys sharing? You guys telling your moms and grandmas? I remember that. A lot of you guys commented, by the way, saying that you did show this to your mom, and there were a few people that said that your grandma was already dead. I mean, she's watching from up above. Love you, Mima. Also, a lot of you guys like put in corrections and everything like that. And you know what? I'm just going to say that everyone that put in corrections, thank you so much. There were like a few random things. What I'm going to do is in the original video and in this video, if there are any corrections, because again, I'm not a genius. And also websites sometimes don't always have the most accurate or up-to-date information. So I'm just going off of like a bunch of different things. But if there are any corrections, feel free to come back in like a few days on this video, watch it again. Obviously watch it again, but then check the description down below because there'll be like corrections if there are any, and I'm going to put corrections on the other video. Also in the pinned there'll be timestamps. If you're looking for anything specific, you can go there. Friendly reminder, like, share, comment, subscribe, push this video out. Let's do it, because I hit 5k, which is fucking crazy. I posted the first video and I was at like 2,000, and somehow I'm at like 5k. Like, what? That's insane. That's insanity. What is happening? Anyways, let's get into it. All right, got my stick is back. All right, so this story starts with where we left off in the previous video, where Venti basically informs the traveler that we have to make our way towards Liyue for the Rite of Dissension. The only information that we get is that the Rite of Dissension is an opportunity for us to meet the Archon of XIAO. Now, before we get into the actual story of Liyue, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information on it because I felt like you guys were kind of missing this with Mondstadt. Like, I kind of like laced it throughout the story, but I thought I'll just dump it to you at the beginning so you guys know what we're getting into. But basically, Liyue is inspired by China, and all the areas or regions in Genshin are actually inspired by IRL places in the world. The region is known for its money, its trade, and the actual city of Liyue. Its main hub is a port city, meaning it's kind of like focused on trade and everything. A lot of the other regions use it as kind of like a center point between like moving goods. So basically, Liyue is where all the money's at in this world. And actually, a fun fact is Mora, which is the currency that everyone uses in Genshin. Think of it like the US dollar, except I'm Canadian, so I use CAD. And speaking of which, if you want to donate to me because this video is a lot of money, feel free to go on my Twitch and hit the donate button or drop a Prime sub. Also, like, watch me on Twitch. Feel free to jump in that chat. There's actually been so many people, which has been like the craziest feeling when I'm like streaming on Twitch, who have come in and been like, oh my god, I just watched the video, and I'm like, what was your favorite part? But Mora actually originates from Liyue, so it kind of makes sense that like the actual currency of this world all stems from like the singular place. From the city of Mondstadt, we make our way towards the nation of Liyue, and they're actually like directly connected. They're land connected. And as we arrive in Liyue, the Rite of Dissension is literally like immediately happening. You're basically like walking into it. There's like a huge crowd of people. Everyone's standing around this like ceremony of this rock, and this ceremony is led by none other than the very important, oh my god, where is she? Where's my favorite girlie? Where are you? Oh my god, right here. Ling One. Literally, guys, like, when I first played Genshin, I stand. Like, I was a Ningguang stan, and then I played her and I was like, never mind, I can't deal with this attack speed. For some context, the Rite of Dissension is actually performed by one member of the Qixing of Liyue. And for those who don't know what the Qixing is, it is kind of like a government body. I'm pretty sure there are 7 people involved in it, and they are all about managing the economics, commerce, and trade of the entire region. And every year, the Rite of Dissension happens, and one of the Qixing members leads it, and basically the whole thing is kind of like a prediction into the future of like what the economic future will be for the city of Liyue. The ritual this year is being led by Ningguang, who is our absolute girl boss, gatekeep, gaslight, all the G's. Literally, if there was a Forbes magazine in Genshin, she would be on the fucking cover sitting there like, yes. So Ningguang is actually also a part of the Qixing. She's one of the members who specializes in laws, and she's running the Rite of Dissension this year. What happens is there's this like grand ceremony. There's a bunch of rocks flying around. Everyone's like, oh my god, they're like anticipating, you know, this like prediction or whatever, and the god of Geo to descend. And boy, does this man descend. Everyone is super excited when I tell you that this ceremony is both literally and metaphorically the flop of this century. It really is, because Rex Lapis comes down from the sky. He's basically like a Geo dragon and flops on the ground dead. Cue the gasp from the crowd. An intense Latin backtrack as this becomes a complete Spanish soap opera. Vibes, it just became PLL, like it's a murder mystery, like who did it, where's A, where's A? And basically Ningguang sees this going on and she's like, shut this shit down, babes, shut this shit down, ain't no one leaving the premises. Obviously, for some goddamn reason, even though we were just standing there, we think we're guilty, so we start running. We're like, nah, we gotta get out, babes. So we start running. Well, actually we sneak, but it does not work out that very well, because as we make our way down the stairs, the Myolith interrupt us. Just some backstory on the Myolith. The Myolith is basically the military unit that has jurisdiction within Liyue. Think of it like the FBI, you know, like the guys in black who are gonna like, you know, zap shit out of your like brain because you saw the aliens of Area 51. So as we're trying to sneak away due to them apprehending everyone at the scene, we get caught on the staircase, and just when we think it's all going wrong and we're going down, we're going to jail, babes, like it's the end of the road for us, literally Ed Sheeran in the flesh shows up and starts singing the A-Team. I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do. I'm kidding, it's not Ed Sheeran, but it is the lovely Tartaglia, which does look like Ed Sheeran. And they say we're in the class 18. Lovely Ed Sheeran does some quick moves and gets rid of the Myolith and allows us to escape the scene. Later on, he then talks to us and asks us if we know Senora. Quick recap on Senora. She is the girly, the girl boss that kicked Venti in the stomach. We stand dealing with leprechaun looking ass menace. We quickly realize the reason why he's asking about Senora is because he's also a Fatui Harbinger, and to be precise, he is the 12th. Dead last. You hear that, Ed Sheeran? Irrelevant. When we realize Ed Sheeran is part of the Fatui Harbingers, we are like, no ma'am, we ain't trusting this. We ain't taking a boot in the stomach. We already saw how Venti was dealt with. We don't want to be next. We out of there. We are not dealing with this. Child lets us know that he's not there to fight. Remember that. Remember those keywords later on in the story, please. Put a pin in that. No, vibes, I'm seriously, put a pin in it. Put a pin in it. Future liar. So he lets us know that he does want to fight, and then takes us to the Northernland Bank within Liyue. I do want to give some backstory on the Northernland Bank just because I feel like it's important and a little bit glossed over in the main story. The Northernland Bank is actually run by Shesnaya and operates within Liyue. So basically the Fatui and the Harbingers are the people that are running this bank. They actually give a lot of hefty loans out to clients within Liyue, but the interesting part is they have an entire debt collecting like team. So I feel like it's kind of purposely done, like where they give large debts they know people can't pay, so they can kind of use that or like leverage that against them later on. I also want to make a note here, like put a pin in this one too, that this kind of like shows that clearly Shesnaya and generally like the nation of CHIAO is kind of trying to push their almost like diplomacy or like culture or pressure onto other nations by, you know, having a presence beyond just the Fatui Harbingers, right? Like in this case, it's an economic presence, which which I think is important to know because I feel like, again, those things aren't really discussed and it's more like a high concept thing where you're kind of realizing it. Childe lets us know that in order for us to clear our name, we have to get the approval of the Adepti within Liyue. He then also hands us a sigil and lets us know that that sigil will prevent the Adepti from being able to harm us, which is questionable. Like, I'm kind of like, okay, what am I getting myself into? All right, so we're going to do a little bit of a lore dump here for the Adepti. These are the Adepti here in general. Now, little is known about their origins, but it is said that possibly they gained their power and blessing from Morax, the god of XIAO. Some people in Teyvat also believe that they are descendants from Celestia. All the Adepti have the ability to manipulate elemental energy in some capacity. And when Liyue was established, all the Adepti signed a contract with Morax to swear to protect it. Post-Archon War 2,000 years ago, many of the Adepti went into a state of resting as they weren't needed anymore. And some even decided to ask Morax to be turned into stone as they were tired of waiting for their end. In our first order of business, we make our way towards Minland to talk to the Moon Carver, which is one of the Adepti, who then notices that we do have a sigil and asks what we're doing there. For reference, if you're wondering who the Moon Carver is on this wall, it's Rudolph the fucking red-nosed ass reindeer. Upon our arrival, the Mylith are close behind and we deal with them swiftly in order to continue our conversation with the Moon Carver. We inform the Moon Carver of Rex Lapis's assassination, who then lets us know that we have to get the approval of the Cloud Retainer, Mountain Shaper, and Demon Conqueror in order to prove our innocence that they seemingly know of. We then make our way towards the Wangshu Inn, where we are told that the Demon Conqueror resides. When arriving, we meet future fuckboy ZHONGLI, who then out of nowhere seems to be irritated with us and then just leaves. It's been 5 minutes and this man's playing hard to get, and I am telling you, ZHONGLI, it is not hard to get, it is hard to want. It is hard to want. This man up and left, so we decide to go to the inn's boss to see what's going on, and he lets us know that ZHONGLI is actually an Adepti as well. He also gives us information that he likes almond tofu, and the fact that I have to cook for this man already and he already left me, this is how we're starting our relationship. I'm on the bag. I am on the bagging on my knees. It's been 30 minutes of gameplay and I'm already in my housewife era where I have to cook for some boy to get him to notice me. Of course, Genshin wouldn't be without a struggle, and the chef lets us know that although he would love to make us the dish, he is too terrified to make it because apparently the inn is being haunted by a ghost. It's giving Sims 4 emotion system where apparently the sim is too fucking scared to fucking cook the dish. Like, bitch, just pick up the pan and cook the shit and get over it. We of course decide to deal with this ourselves, which ends up in an entire goose chase and the ghost possessing a ruin hunter that we then defeat. The ghost lets us know that they'll stop haunting the inn if we, as a traveler, continue to play with them, and we just agree. We then get our food offerings for ZHONGLI and catch up to him, preventing his leave with our food. And like I've always said, best way to a man's heart is with food. Not be literally chasing this man. Like, it is day one and I'm already begging for this boy. Like, please give me a break, Genshin. You are literally making me roleplay as the ZHONGLI simp, and like, that's not me. That's not me, babes. Either you want me or you don't. Don't run from me. We let ZHONGLI know about Rex Lapis's death, which actually does come also as a surprise to him as well. We also let ZHONGLI know about the spirit that is terrorizing the inn, and he talks to the innkeeper and basically lets him know that the spirit is unable to pass and if he could watch over them. Our journey then takes us to the Mountain Shaper, but on the way, we do meet a man who is begging the Adepti for mercy on both himself and his brother. They surprisingly mistake us for Adepti messengers, but regardless, we help the man free his brother that was trapped in an amber encasing. The Mountain Shaper then appears and lets us know that the person we freed is a thief and then questions us further. We then flash our sigil and let the Mountain Shaper know of Rex Lapis's recent death. Honestly, at this point in the story, I realized quickly that we're really just out here delivering like bad news. Like, this is the worst first impression. Every single person we meet, we're like, hey, bestie, by the way, the god of XIAO is dead. And also, everyone thinks I did it. So I'm going to need you, even though you don't know who I am, to tell everyone that I did it. Is that too much to ask? The Mountain Shaper then lets us know that they're very defensive over their abode and basically see anyone on this mountain as thieves, and they've bewitched the flowers so that when stepped on, they encase you in amber. Not to be like a complete gaslighter, but like this, I feel like is a slight overreaction. We then make our way to the final meeting with the Cloud Retainer, and upon going to this area, we see a table with a bunch of food offerings upon it. On this table of offering, we add our own, and this allows us to gain access into the Cloud Retainer's domain, where they let us know that the only way that we're going to meet is if we navigate through it. So basically, we go through this entire damn maze just to have a conversation with this fucking bird. At this point, I was really saying to myself, this is so much work. Like, we just showed up, this fucking dragon falls to the damn ground, for what? And now all of a sudden, it's 4 hours later, and I'm still on this damn journey. After navigating this entire domain, we come upon the Cloud Retainer, who we let know of Rex Lapis's death, and at this point, this bird has a whole ass bitch fit and basically says that they're going to destroy Liyue for all of their crimes. So we chill her out, anger issues as fuck. With all the Adepti found, at this point we return ourselves to Childe and let them know what's going on. Childe then informs us that the Qixing isn't allowing anyone to see or go to Rex Lapis's body, and at this point Paimon blurts out that we're looking for the Geo Archon. You know what? I just want to say there are theories out there that like Paimon knows everything and that they're like the Time Lord and they're the reason like they're trying to like do this master plan to keep the time continuum going. And you know what? This lends itself to it because like Paimon's really out here just trying to push the plot. Childe lets us know that he can work around this, but has to meet with his contacts. You know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of fucking Ed Sheeran. I'm tired of fucking like little sad boy over here referring to contacts. Who are these contacts? Why is everyone so fucking mysterious? Also, why do I have to tell everyone the truth of what I'm doing and everyone gets to keep secrets from me? It's seeming very unfair. And this will take us to Act 2 of this story. A Fatui envoy at the Northernland Bank lets the Traveler and Paimon know that Childe is waiting for them at a nearby restaurant. We meet Childe at the restaurant only for him to introduce us to the lovely ZHONGLI, who you will come to know as Mrs. Cecilio Mora. Like, I know he cute, but like, I know he didn't pay for that haircut because he's fucking broke. ZHONGLI is a consultant at the local funeral parlor and basically lets you know that it's his job to make sure that Rex Lapis has a proper farewell send-off. He also lets you know that the Adepti are slowly distancing themselves from mankind, which is a very interesting point that you should also hold on to for later. So at this point, we all set out to go buy a few items for the funeral. We then buy some Noctilus Jade with Childe's Mora. God forbid ZHONGLI pays for fucking anything. You then pick up some silk flowers for free by playing the very convenient card of like, oh my god, the Geo God just died. And like, I get it. There's like a lot of economic uncertainty right now. But you know, I could totally use these flowers for the funeral card. We then take the silk flowers and make them into perfume, offering them to a nearby statue of the Seven outside of the harbor. ZHONGLI then asks for a cleansing bell, which can be obtained from the lovely Madame Peng. Oh my god, Granny. But lets us know that he can't attend with us as he has business to do. Again, I don't trust any of the men on this wall. We find Madame Peng and she lets us know that the cleansing bell is actually in her domain, and this is what lets us know that she's also an Adepti as well. Like, are there any normal people in Liyue? Why does everyone have to be like some semi-godly being? We then retrieve the bell from the domain and bring it back to ZHONGLI. After retrieving the bell, ZHONGLI lets us know that he has some work to do on this side, and the lovely Childe, of course, funds this work by giving us some Mora in order to find some workers. Within the city of Liyue, we come upon Tic Tac and Toe. No, that is not a joke. These parents literally call their kids Tic Tac and Toe. Like, if you don't want kids, like, just say so. But to name them something like that, like, you're just asking for these children to be bullied. Childe then has some leftover Mora and lets us know that he's looking for information from us and is willing to give us the rest of the Mora in order to get this information. And before Paimon can even really answer, and it kind of seems like Paimon's willing to go along with this, we completely reject the offer, which upsets Childe. ZHONGLI then enters during this conversation, oblivious to what's going on, and lets us know that he's looking for everlasting incense that can be found at the local pharmacy. Upon entering the pharmacy, we are greeted by Chi-Chi, a literal zombie child. Like, you think I'm joking. I don't understand where this came in the story. Like, who said undead kid? And also, how are they working? Like, is that legal? Like, do we not have, like, workers' rights? Like, this kid's, like, 9. I'm looking at you, Ningguan. Lady of Laws. Where is the child labor laws? Like, this is child abuse. What's going on? Also, the kid's, like, literally dealing with drugs. Like, hello? Chi-Chi, the 7-year-old, lets us know that the only way that they're gonna help us is if we hunt down the Coco Goat. Yes, we are now bargaining with this child. In order to do this, we have to locate and use the Guzong Ballista. When coming upon the ballista with ZHONGLI, we realize that it is out of commission and we have to repair it. And while grabbing these spare parts in order to repair it, we're actually attacked by a horde of treasure hoarders. We come to find out that the reason why the ballista was disabled was in order for the treasure hoarders to loot the surrounding area of goods and treasures. After defeating them, we are able to turn on the ballista, but it is non-reactive. And at this point, we realize that there's no Kokogo, at least in the like immediate vicinity, because if there was, the ballista would have attacked it. When heading back to the pharmacy to let Chi-Chi know that there wasn't any Kokogo, they re-look over their notes, only to tell us that they were actually looking for coconut milk. Again, why are we taking advice from a 7-year-old? Like, of course this would happen. Like, I don't even think this kid can read. Before continuing on this conversation with Chi-Chi, in walks Baiju, who thanks us for taking care of Chi-Chi, because apparently this was just like a babysitting job. He then lets us know that he'll sell the incense to us, but for 3 million mora. Vibes. It's giving like we only got 3 vaccines, and yes, I am going to become a millionaire off of your suffrage. Like, what the fuck? What do you mean 3 million mora? We head back to Childe for aid, which amuses him, and he agrees to give us the money in order to get the incense, and also lets us know that he'll set up a supply chain with the pharmacy in order for them to have coconut milk regularly. Childe then lets us know that a fellow Fatui member has informed him that the Qixing has hidden Rex Lapis at the Golden House. Zhongli lets us know that he wants to meet us at the 3rd round knockout, which is a local tavern, and even throws in at this point, you know, it's been like 4 hours, that he is bringing mora in order to pay for it. So, you know, we're making progress. Mr. Steal your mora. He probably honestly stole our own mora to pay for this. Like, there's probably some leftover mora from some of these transactions, and he's just acting like he has money, but it's really our money. At the tavern, a local tells us a story about Ningguang. And while the story is going on, in walks Ganyu, who actually lets us know that Ningguang is expecting us at the Jade Chamber. And note to everyone who is watching, Ganyu is a member of the Qixing as well. Zhongli then encourages to go to this meeting due to the fact that invitations to the Jade Chamber are really rare, and also lets us know that after our business with Ningguang, we should meet him later. Ganyu, the Traveler, and Paimon make their way towards a mechanism that is known to take people to the Jade Chamber, but when upon using it, they realize that it doesn't take them as far as they had thought. The Traveler then remembers the ballista that was repaired earlier, and they make their way over towards it, only to see the Mylith heavily guarding it. Worried that this is a trap, the Traveler quickly defeats the Mylith, and upon the last one falling, in walks Keqing. Keqing quickly realizes that we're Ningguang's guests and explains to us that the Mylith were only there to defend the ballista. And this was due to their suspicions that the ballista had magically repaired itself within a day, which obviously we know we were the ones that repaired it. Keqing then lets us know how to access the Jade Chamber. At this point, Paimon remembers, due to tradition, we owe Ningguang a gift when going up to the Jade Chamber. Also, I'd like to start a new tradition on this channel where if you make it this far into the video and you're part of the Sub Squad, you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share with one friend, even your dead grandma, I don't care. You quickly pick up a gift and then head to Yuhai in order to ascend to the Jade Chamber. Alright, so at this point we're going to do a bit of a Jade Chamber lore dump here. So the Jade Chamber is actually made by Ningguang for the Qixing and is used as a way to monitor all of the ongoings in the region of Liyue. The Jade Chamber is a floating structure that doesn't actually have a date as to when it was first made, but does harbor a ton of energy within it. At the Jade Chamber, you're greeted by Ningguang, who accepts your gift and offers you one in return. You and Ningguang have a pretty lengthy conversation about the Archons and the Fatui, and when looking around in the Jade Chamber, you spot an actual report on the Fatui. In this report, you come to realize that the Fatui were researching something about the sigils of permission. At this point, you return to Zhongli in order to continue your preparations for the rite of parting, this including collecting glaze lilies. While collecting glaze lilies, we actually run into Ganyu again, and at this point, we discover that she is indeed part of the Adepti and has actually been watching over Liyue since its creation over 3,700 years ago. Like, damn girl, what is your skincare regimen? Drop that shit because you look fucking good for 3,700 years old. Ganyu then gives her thoughts on Rex Lapis's passing, and as you make your way back to Liyue, you are greeted to literal chaos. When arriving back, you realize that the Adepti and Qixing have decided to go with a direct confrontation with each other, and Ningguang has actually decided to crack down on the Fatui within Liyue. Due to these events, the Mylith have actually made their way to the funeral parlor in order to question Hu Tao and their involvement with the Fatui. Zhongli then makes his way to the funeral parlor, I'm assuming to defend Hu Tao and their actions, but lets you know when he's leaving to pursue CHILDE, who has made his way to the Golden House. You quickly make your way there due to assuming that CHILDE CHILDE will be on his way to Rex Lapis's corpse in order to grab the Gnosis. When arriving at the Golden House, we have a duel with CHILDE, in which during this time period, at one point he is close enough to Rex Lapis and takes this opportunity to plunge his hand into Rex Lapis's chest. I really think that this whole like grabbing people's hearts thing is really not healthy and someone should go seek a doctor. Unlike Signora though, when CHILDE pulls his hand out of Rex Lapis's chest, he does not have a Gnosis in hand. CHILDE then believes that we must have the Gnosis and continues to duel us, revealing that he is indeed carrying an Electro delusion. This delusion allows CHILDE to wield the power of Electro and amplifies his abilities. Even with this advantage, CHILDE is unable to take down the Traveler and we are able to defend him off. He then makes a remark that he doesn't believe that we have the Gnosis. He then also lets us know that he feels Signora's reports on us are also wrong. So I'm assuming that these reports are like downplaying us and like saying that we can't do shit. But like, girl, that was level 1 me. We're level 29 now. Like, we're pulling. With this in mind, CHILDE resorts to his fail-safe backup plan and releases the Sigil of Permission that also releases Osile. Osile is actually an ancient god that existed in previous times that Rex Lapis sealed away under the ocean. With this greater threat in mind, the Qixing and Adepti put aside their differences and work together towards a common enemy. This fight is absolutely wild. It takes place in the middle of the air. There is like a magical platform and the ballistas have been summoned. The Adepti themselves are actually the ones manning the ballistas. I'm assuming channeling their like magical energy into them. And the rest of the Qixing is actually on the magical platform defending against the Fatui that have been summoned upon this platform. The group is able to defeat the Fatui minions, infiltrating the platform, and at this point the Qixing and the Adepti make a coordinated attack against Osile, but unfortunately it seems to have absolutely no effect. At this point, Osile launches a counterattack, destroying the platform and most of the Traveler and their friends' artillery. With the platform destroyed, Ningguang decides to make one final decision and sacrifice the Jade Chamber in order to save Liyue. This is done by using the Jade Chamber's immense mass by slamming it literally on top of Osile to bring him back down to the bottom of the ocean. Osile perishes with the Jade Chamber, and for a moment in Liyue there is peace. The rite of parting proceeds as planned, but one question remains, which is who is the Geo Archon? Alright, blink if it's not you. Alright, it's everyone. The Traveler then seeks out Zhongli and goes to the Northernland Bank, only to see this man discussing with Signora and CHILDE. Zhongli, in a very dramatic way, then lets us know that he is indeed the Geo Archon and faked his own death in order to test Liyue to see if they could live on without him. Vibes, it's giving Leo. It's giving like, oh my god, like what if I died? Like, and then I like saw how everyone reacted. Like, who would actually miss me? He then forges a contract with Turizia called the Contracts to End All Contracts, and then hands the Gnosis over to Signora. We did this for what? What do we do? She literally kicked Venti, like what? And now you're just giving it to her? Bro, the amount of anger I felt in my soul when like going through the story and he just handed over the Gnosis, I was like, I really just went around doing all of that dirty ass work for what? Later on, the rite of parting commences, and we are met with Keqing, who asks us what reward we would like for helping them with this whole ordeal. We respond with that we would just like posters to be put up around the city for our missing sibling. Yes, you heard that correctly. We spent all this time, energy, risked our fucking lives, and we just want some fucking posters. Or Baiju over here, we asked this man for some incense, he's like 3 million more. We didn't ask for even 1 million. Not even 1 million, just some fucking papers around the town. I scrolled, I waited, I was like, there's gonna be another option, like there's a secret option where I actually get something good out of this, and there wasn't. At that point, we speak to Zhongli about the future of Liyue, and he lets us know that he's aware that we're searching for the other Archons. He proceeds to tell us that our next destination, Inazuma, has been sealed away by their Archon Ball, and also lets us know that a Vision Hunt decree has been declared on the entire region of Inazuma. He then adds that he thinks his death will also accelerate this process within Inazuma, but also tells us that we shouldn't give up and we should find a way in. And that brings us to a close on the Liyue Archon main storyline. So as like we did with the Mondstadt side, I'm going to be giving a character breakdown for each of the main characters within this, and then after that I'm going to go through the events of 1.1, 1.2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and tell you all of the like main storyline elements and things that we found out during that period. So then part 3 will just be 2.0 and the entire like storyline of that all the way to 2.7. So the first character breakdown that we're going to start with is the lovely Ganyu. Ganyu is one of the only adepti that is actually on the council of the Qixing. And Ganyu holds a position as the secretary and has held this position for over 3,000 years. Ganyu is actually pretty overworked, stressed, and forgetful in her position of the Qixing. And this is due to the ton of files and paperwork that she has to constantly be working through. She is also half adepti and half human. So she kind of acts as this in-between between the adepti and humans and is trying to bridge the gap. And about 3,000 years ago, she signed a contract with Rex Lapis and has held that position ever since. The second character that we're talking about is Keqing. Keqing is also a member of the Qixing and specializes in real estate, construction, managing the land, all within Liyue. A really interesting point about Keqing is that she's actually very skeptical of Rex Lapis. An important part of her character is all about freedom and going against the crowd. She understands Rex Lapis's importance in the creation of Liyue and upholding it, but looks more towards the future and a life without Rex Lapis as the head of it. Keqing feels that people overlook her hard work due to the fact that she has a vision and life might be easier for that. Due to this, Keqing, when first receiving her vision, was very much against it and at one point actually tried to destroy it on multiple occasions. One time leaving it in a burning house for multiple days, and on another, she ran over it with a rock cart. At this point in the story, Keqing learned to appreciate her vision and all that allows her to do, but she isn't actually like thankful towards the people that gave it to her. Next person that we're going to be talking about is Baizhu. Little is actually known about the character of Baizhu, but one interesting point is Chi-Chi lets us know that they believe that Baizhu is actually weaker than them. This point is actually pretty interesting because this bitch is literally hella dead and actually has like no power. It's actually pretty interesting because Chi-Chi is honestly like basically dead and a zombie, and on top of that she's a whole ass child. So for Baizhu to be like weaker than Chi-Chi, I find that really interesting. Baizhu actually is one of the most sus characters I would say within Liyue, but that's mainly because we don't have any information on him. The only thing that we really do know is that he runs the pharmacy and again he uses Chi-Chi a lot to get things done. Baizhu is actually one of the only Dendro vision holders in the game currently, and at all times is accompanied by his companion snake that is found around his neck. Within recent updates, it's been speculated that Baizhu might have been possibly alive 500 years ago during the wars that involved Conria. The next person we're talking about obviously would be Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi is a zombie child that has no emotions due to the fact that they've gone through zombification. And one interesting fact about Chi-Chi is the fact that she dead as says that she wants to punch Hu Tao in the face. This is due to the fact that mainly Hu Tao just wants to put Chi-Chi in the ground and put them to rest, and Chi-Chi's like, listen, I get it, I'm dead, and I get that you're on the funeral, but bitch, I want to be half alive, like, leave me alone. Chi-Chi is the apprentice and herb gatherer for the pharmacy in Liyue. During the fight between the Adepti, Yaksha, and demons, Chi-Chi being alive at the time, wandered into the Adepti realm only to find themselves in a situation where they were near death. This was due to the Adepti and demons currently fighting within these realms and Chi-Chi kind of getting in the middle of it. The Adepti seeing Chi-Chi in this state and taking pity on them, each gave a part of their power in order to bring Chi-Chi back to life. Although this brought Chi-Chi back to life, this had some severe consequences on Chi-Chi, with the Adepti power being uncontrollable and causing Chi-Chi to enter zombification. The next person we're going to talk about is fuckboy ZHONGLI. ZHONGLI is one of the few Yaksha that fought in the Archon War. During the Archon War, many gods fell in battle in the lands of Liyue, and due to this, demons spawn from the hatred and sin left over from their bodies. ZHONGLI was brought into Teyvat with a task to defeat the demons after these consequences had occurred. ZHONGLI was saved by the Geo Archon, and for the rest of his life faces karmic debt due to the actions he took with the demons during the Archon War. ZHONGLI is one of the only Yakshas left, as the rest have died or have succumbed to their karmic debt. And finally, ZHONGLI doesn't really like interacting with humans. He finds the time wasteful and also I think feels kind of bad due to the fact that he knows his nature and his inability to control himself. The next person we're talking about is Madame Peng. Madame Peng is actually over 3,700 years old. This girl is still walking, and was a past adeptus that possibly fought in the Archon War. She is currently the caretaker of Yanfei, and crazily enough, there seems to be some sort of like beef. I can't really tell if it's like beef or friendship or like some like kind of uneasiness between Madame Peng and Zhongli. An interesting point that people don't notice is Madame Peng definitely still has elemental energy, as she lends some of it to us when we're fighting Osile. And Madame Peng is also the person that helps us create our own domain known as the Serenity Pot. The next person we're going to be talking about is a Cloud Retainer. The Cloud Retainer is actually close friends with both Morax and Guizhong. The Cloud Retainer did indeed fight in the Archon War, where unfortunately Guizhong perished. After the fight with XIAO, the Cloud Retainer lets the Qixing know that they're willing to let the humans rule themselves, but will keep a close eye on them. The next person we're going to be talking about is Mountain Shaper. The Mountain Shaper is another Adepti that unfortunately does not like humans and also was summoned to fight during the Archon War. The Mountain Shaper also participated in subjugating Azhdaha. The next person is the Moon Carver. The Moon Carver is actually one of the kindest Adepti, and although they don't like humans, they are a lot more tolerable than the rest of them. They were summoned during the Archon War to fight and also participated in the subjugating of Azhdaha. The man, the myth, the legend, ZHONGLI. ZHONGLI, aka Rex Lapis, aka Morax, is one of the oldest gods that currently exists in Teyvat. It is currently thought that Rex Lapis has lived over 6,000 years, and also is the creator of Mora due to his gnosis. ZHONGLI is the mortal vessel of the geo god known as Morax. As we know, ZHONGLI was very good friends with Guizhong, who was unfortunately slain in the Archon War. ZHONGLI was also the person to establish Liyue over 3,700 years ago. Now, one of the most important details going forward in the story beyond 2.0 is the contract to end all contracts, which happens at the end of the Archon quest, and this is the most interesting thing because we actually don't know what is involved in the contract. All we know is that ZHONGLI gave up his gnosis, which was basically giving up the ability for him to be able to protect the land of Liyue. There are a lot of rumors and speculations over this contract, but the main thing is, what did the Cryo Archon have to give to ZHONGLI in order for him to let go of this gnosis? The next person we're going to talk about is Guizhong. She is known as the goddess of dust and actually helped to build the ballista with the Adepti. She's known as a gentle goddess, and a really interesting fact about her is that she actually spent a lot of time researching the technology within Khaenri'ah. She unfortunately died during the Archon War protecting the people that resided within the Gully Plains, and her last moments were spent with Morax. The last person we're going to talk about is Havria. Havria is actually the god of salt, but spent most of the Archon War fleeing and hiding from the battles. Havria eventually met their death due to their own people and kind of served as a lesson to Morax. Now, I'm assuming these lessons were about immortality, trusting others, and carelessness. Alright, for this section, we are going to be going through the events of 1.1 to 1.5. I decided at the end of this to not do 1.6 just because it kind of serves as an introduction to Inazuma, so I felt it would be better put in the part 3 where we're talking all about Inazuma. Alright, so the first patch, 1.1, is called A Reconciled Stars, and there was really only one main event that gave us a little bit more details into the main storyline of Genshin and some of its characters. The event starts off with meteorite shards falling to the world of Teyvat, and these meteorite shards actually resonate with vision holders, meaning if you have a vision and you get near it, your vision sort of like lights up. The meteorite shards do harbor a strange power, and where they decide to land, people nearby tend to fall asleep. We get this information from the Adventurers Guild in Mondstadt, and an official decides to join us on this commission. During the storyline, it seems like monsters in the nearby vicinity are attracted to the meteorites, and after clearing out the monsters as well as picking up all the meteorites, people within the direct area seem to wake up from this everlasting sleep. The people that do fall asleep tend to recall having dreams of climbing a mountain. While dealing with some of the meteorite incidences in Liyue, we come upon Scaramouche, and this is our first incident of seeing him within the story, and he lets us know that he goes by the name of Vagrant of Inazuma. At this point in the event, we find out that the Fatui are also involved in researching these meteorites, and Mona decides to join us because she finds out that there are magical disturbances involved with them. Mona checks the ley lines nearby and comes to determine that the meteorites are all coming from a very specific person's constellations. While Mona tries to do another reading, in walks Scaramouche, and the crazy thing is that Mona just senses this immediate danger and teleports yourself, Fischl, and herself out of the area. This is actually pretty strange because Mona doesn't really tell us if they know Scaramouche directly in any way, and it's actually at this point in the story that we discover that Scaramouche is the 6th member of the 11th Fatui Harbingers. He actually reveals his goal to the player that his entire intent was indeed to kill the Traveler. Later on in this event, we do run into Scaramouche once more when studying the large meteorite, and he lets us know some very ominous information that he thinks that the stars and skies are a complete hoax. He then talks about a jester giving him information on what he might find researching into these meteorites, and after this conversation, Mona also lets us know that she has had previous conversations about a false sky and if that possibly meant more than what she assumed. Honestly, this is one of the biggest question marks coming out of the 1.0 series with the whole false sky narrative. I feel like this possibly either can lend itself to an actual A, false sky, meaning this is all like some sort of weird simulation, or B, that sky is kind of a metaphor for Celestia, and that they're false gods in a way, because I feel like people perceive gods as always being good, but in this reality, gods might not always be doing the right thing. The next patch is 1.2 and is referred to as the Chalk Prince and the Dragon, and this takes place in Dragonspine, the new area added into Mondstadt. This mountain actually has a special feature of being completely plagued by winter and extreme cold. So this mountain is actually the mountain that Durin dies upon 500 years ago during the Cataclysm in a fight with Dvalin. Durin was actually created by someone very important that goes by the name of Ryan Dotsier, but also they're known as Gold, and they were created in Conria. So Durin was sent out of Conria and decided to attack Mondstadt, and this is what causes the awakening of Barbados, aka Venti, due to the fact that people of Mondstadt were in peril and calling out for help. Before Durin fell upon the mountain, a really interesting point of Dragonspine was actually that a civilization existed living on that exact same mountainside. This kingdom was known as Solving Dagnir and was led by actually a princess who was able to foresee into the future. And one of the futures that she foresaw was actually the death of Durin and falling upon that mountain. A short time after this future was foresawn, the nail of Celestia was dropped upon the mountain. This caused clouds and mist to enshroud the mountain, but also caused its eternal winter to begin. This nail then later broke apart into 3 pieces, and one of these pieces went on to destroy a white tree, which had significance to the princess and her futures. Eventually, the civilization ceased to exist due to succumbing to the awful winter that was put upon the mountain. During our time in Dragonspine, we actually worked to get the 3 pieces of the nail back together, and when we do so, the nail then goes back to its spot in the sky, hovering menacingly over the area, but not really doing anything. This is also where we first meet a very important person named Albedo. This brings us to patch 1.3, known as All That Glitter, which is the Lantern Rite Festival, the very first one. This event focuses on Liyue and is a celebration of the city. It is kind of like basically a celebration of Chinese New Year as well. There aren't any major story elements throughout this patch and event, but it is one of the most event-filled patches up until this point within the game. The next patch is 1.4, Invitation to Windbloom, which is obviously the Windbloom Festival that celebrates Mondstadt, and also similarly to 1.3 doesn't have a ton of story elements involved within it. Although the events in 1.4 don't progress the story much, we do get the We Will Be Reunited series at this point. We Will Be Reunited takes place in between chapters 1 and 2, and I know that's a bit confusing because this is part 2, but remember, prologue is Mondstadt, Chapter 1 is Liyue, and Chapter 2 will be Inazuma. So this takes place in between Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. But again, this is part 2 of the video because we're not doing a part 0. Catherine tells you about a strange person showing up in Mondstadt, and after asking around, you decide to wait in the tavern, as that is where you've been told that he tends to, hang out. For those who don't know, Catherine is the person that kind of gives you all of the commissions and everything. She's like a non-playable character. When going to the tavern, you decide to go on the 2nd floor to wait for the mysterious traveler, and in walks edgy, blonde Zac Efron, known as Dane. He's clearly dressed differently than anyone we've currently encountered. When going downstairs and having a conversation with Dane, we come to find out that he is already informed on the fact that Venti is actually the god of Animo, and so ZHONGLI is also the god of Geo. And he also asks us some interesting questions, one being who we think will defend Liyue now that ZHONGLI doesn't have his gnosis. So it's clearly very obvious that Dane knows a hell of a lot, and we don't really know how. He then asks us another question, asking who we think is more important to the gods, vision holders or non-vision holders. And after answering, he lets us know that we remind him of somebody who also goes by him. In this case, the him or her that they're referring to is your other sibling. He lets us know that his journey only involves dealing with the Abyss, and also tells us that he is looking for an Abyss Herald. He then tells us that the Temple of the Falcon has been taken over by the Abyss again, and to meet him there. After clearing the Temple of the Falcon out, Dane lets us know that he thinks the Abyss Herald has already left, and then continues to go on about his hatred for the Abyss. He then finally gives us some very interesting information, which is that the Abyss's only goal in his eyes is to overthrow the world of the Archons. Dane then lets us know to meet him in Wolvendom, as that is where he suspects their next target will be. When reaching this location, Dane lets us know that a lot of these places he's previously visited with another traveler. After finding nothing though, you both make your way to Stormterror's lair. Upon arriving at Stormterror's lair, you have this feeling as if someone or something is nearby. You just definitely feel like something is off. And actually having a conversation with Dane at this point, you come to discover that Dane has been living for hundreds of years. After observing over a peek at Stormterror's lair, that similar feeling that someone or something nearby comes back. And when observing a dandelion nearby, you have a vision with your fight with Miss Heavenly Principles, but more importantly, have a glimpse at the war on Conria. And the crazy thing here is, at this point, you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, if Miss Heavenly Principles was definitely a flashback, because it's something we've seen before, is this image of Conria in war also a flashback? After this, you head back to Liyue to find Ganyu, who is putting up a commission on the board because treasure hoarders nearby are planning a heist on the Abyss Order. We decide to take on the commission and head to the ruin ourselves. When walking into the ruins, you are greeted by a defiled statue of the Seven hanging upside down, and specifically the one for the Anemo Archon. Soon after, an Abyss Herald does indeed appear, and after a short battle with it, it teleports away. After exiting the ruins, you run into Dane and explain all that just happened. And after further looking into the Abyss sightings in the nearby area, Dane lets you know that the Ruin Guards and Abyss Order are actually left over from the war on Conria. Shockingly, we come to know that the Traveler, aka the main player that you play as, does have memories of Conria, even though Conria existed over 500 years ago. At this point, it's very clear that you have some foggy memory areas in your past, but you do remember the fact that your sibling did awaken before the fight with Miss Heavenly Principles. Honestly, at this point, I think in the next video, we're going to have to start a timeline on the 500 years ago thing and everything, because it's a lot to keep track of going back and forth. At this point, you have a pretty good assumption that your sibling must know more about this world than you currently do. After defeating more of the Abyss sightings, you come to find a talisman, which when translated, lets you know of the Abyss's plan to use parts of Osial, yes, Osial, the man that we just put in the damn ocean with the Jade Chamber, that they plan to use parts of him with the defiled statue to create a weaponized mechanical god. You then head your way over to the Mondstadt Cathedral to run into Barbara, who actually gives you the information that there is indeed a missing statue from Mondstadt. Rosaria then enters at this point and lets the Traveler know that the Abyss is indeed attacking Wolvendom. The Traveler then finds Dane and informs him on this information, and they both head to Wolvendom only to find the Abyss Herald trying to corrupt Boreas. The Traveler interrupts the ritual, making the Abyss Herald flee, and both Razor and Boreas thank us for saving them. At this point, we head back to Dane to let them know what's going on. Dane then lets us know that he thinks we should destroy the defiled statue in order to prevent this from all happening again. Returning to the ruin, Dane and the Traveler both see the Herald again and commence a battle. At one point in this fight, the Abyss Herald does indeed try to flee through a portal, and Dane uses an unknown type of magic in order to bind the Abyss Herald. And just when the Traveler and Dane think they have the upper hand, a shockwave from someone else's sword stops them in their tracks. When the smoke clears, the Traveler is shocked to find that their sibling is squaring off against them. Dane seems to know your sibling as well, and at this point, your sibling reveals to you that Dane is actually the Twilight Sword, a knight from Conria that failed to protect them 500 years ago in the war. At this point, the Traveler insists that their sibling comes home with them, but their sibling lets us know that they can't because they have a goal to fulfill with the Abyss. At this point, they leave us with some parting words, letting us know that we too will see the truth within this story. They then leave with the Abyss Herald, Dane closely following behind as they all jump into the portal. We too try to jump into the portal, but this is kind of an embarrassing moment for us, and we get left behind with honestly more questions than answers at this point. The next patch is 1.5 Beneath the Light of the Jadeite. The only major story arc of this patch is with Azhdaha, where we learn that he's actually trying to escape his eternal prison. We learn that Azhdaha signed a contract with Morax to protect the people of Liyue, but due to the fact of his suffering of erosion, he actually ended up turning against the very people he swore to protect. Erosion is actually the effects of a mental decay that happen over time that even gods seem to be affected by. The only person that's known to completely succumb to erosion is Azhdaha within the story currently. Both the Adepti and Morax came together in a fight against Azhdaha in order to seal him away. Within patch 1.5, we indeed have to reopen the chamber that he is sealed upon in battle against Azdaha. 1.6 is the events of the Golden Apple Archipelago, but does end up serving as kind of like a prelogue to Inazuma and an introduction, especially when it brings in Kazuha's storyline. So we're going to save that for the next part because I just feel like it makes sense putting that all together. Because if I give it now, you guys might like forget it and how it, you know, pertains to everything else that happens in 2.0. All right, so that wraps up part number 2 of this crazy timeline. I am telling you guys right now, if you haven't followed me on my socials, definitely go do that. It'll be linked in the description down below, because one thing that's going to be really interesting is I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do a remodel of this wall. I don't know. I've been thinking of other ways to possibly organize a little bit better, just because there are so many characters that are going to be coming in for 2.0 all the way to 2.7. And obviously I want a clear and concise way of you guys being able to look at the wall and tell what's going on. So on my socials, I will be updating it with everything that I do on this wall and how it's going. And I'll let you guys know in the community tab or somewhere on Twitter, Instagram, something down below, when the next video is coming and when you can expect it. Anyways, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, for commenting down below your favorite parts of things that made you laugh. It's really great to read all of that. It makes my day, especially when I'm just working away at my desk. If you want to find a way to support me, definitely come over to Twitch and either donate, subscribe there for $5, or even subscribe with a Prime sub for free if you have Amazon Prime. Any support helps me be a content creator full time, which is definitely my goal eventually. Also, feel free to join the Discord, as we have a ton of Genshin content there and we can help you out in any way possible, because we have a bunch of teams, including League Team. I will see you in the next one. Hopefully, God knows how many parts this is going to be, but this is part number 2 and I'm calling it closed.